We deal in paint, pigment, light and shadow, realism, surrealism, impressionism, and ghost stories.
An interest in the oddball, a predilection toward the bizarre. And this place is nothing if it isn't bizarre.
There's no admission, no requirement of membership, only a strong and abiding belief in the dark at the top of the stairs, or things that go bump in the night. The name of this place, should you have come in here accidentally out of the rain, is the Night Gallery.
Welcome once again, art lovers, to Midnight Viewing, the Night Gallery podcast. I'm Father Malone, and joining me here in the gallery, as always, are the Kolchak tapes, Mike White. Say hi, Mike.
Hello, Mike.
Also joining us is Game of Bros, Chris Stachiw.
Hello, Mike.
There we go. We're all set. If we are covering season 2, episode 3, which aired on September the 29th, 1971. This is broken into 3 segments. Since Aunt Ada came to stay. I keep wanting to say Aunt Ida. I don't know why. With apologies to Mr. Hyde and the flip side of Satan. Now, in the last episode I mentioned I want to take a moment to highlight some of the behind the scenes and in front of the scenes members of the Night Gallery crew. We had an episode in the last one directed by Gerald Freeman. Gerald Freeman directs one here. He writes a bunch. He ends up directing a whole bunch more. And as it turns out, started his career as a PA at the Chrysler Theater in the 1950s, where Jack Laird was a writer and a producer. And Jack Laird basically became his mentor. During the early 60s, he directed Silent Snow, Secret Snow as a short film, and that would eventually become an episode here, which he would direct. He was not really part of the staff in the first season because he was running a show called The Psychiatrists, also on NBC, which was part of The Wheel, which was the wheel that Night Gallery and The Psychiatrist on was actually the proto-wheel, which would become the wheel that we love, the Wednesday mystery movie. This was a Sunday night thing. Gerald Freeman actually, once he saw the pilot for Night Gallery, hired Steven Spielberg to direct 2 episodes of The Psychiatrist, like based on that episode. So anyway, I just wanted to point out Mr. Gerald Freeman on to the first segment, which is called Since Aunt Ada Came to Stay.
This item here is called Since Aunt Ada Came to Stay. And Aunt Ada is the most memorable character. You may not like her, but I seriously doubt if you'll ever forget her. Be thankful you've met her only in the Night Gallery.
This one was written by Alvin Sapensley, based on the short story The Witch by A.E. Van Vogt, and this one was directed by William Hale. It stars James Farentino, Michelle Lee, Jonathan Harris, and Jeanette Nolan. It's a story of a logic professor who suspects his wife's aunt may not be who she claims. Chris, what'd you think of this one?
Well, I can tell you that I'm a fan of Alvin Sapensley's other work, namely the hilariously titled Code Name Heraclitus.
One of his films, right?
Yeah, it's a TV movie featuring none other than Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen was Leslie Nielsen, of course. Yeah, nice. Produced by Mr. Jack Laird.
I just like the name Heraclitus. I mean, look, this is a boilerplate stock and trade story that we've seen a million times, to the point where the ending is just what I expected it to be. Oh, you stopped it. Or did you? Yeah, it is exact. If I told you it's a story about a husband and a wife, and there's a third person in their house who's not what they think they are, and the person is trying to body swap, like, you know what this is going to be. Like, you know. So all of that out of the way, it's actually okay for what it is, but I think it's a little long. And there's some logic gaps here with the characters where they act like big dummies, I think is the big dum-dums, especially James Farentino's character. Just like, you're trying really hard to prevent your wife from being turned into a witch. Like, I'm convinced. You convinced me.
He gave it his all, right?
Yeah, he really did. He turned his back for 10 minutes and didn't check on his wife, who he was worried about.
The logician used the most logical method possible to keep an eye on his wife here at the end. Mike, what's your
boy, oh boy, oh boy. I mean, you didn't even talk about the special effects, which are just incredible.
They put special in special effects.
Yes, they do. Oh my gosh. I seem to remember liking A.E. Van Vogt, but this story feels like sub-tier Stephen King. Like, the aunt who actually is a witch reminds me a lot of that Grandma's Boy or whatever, the one from Twilight Zone.
Grandma!
Yeah.
The ending's the same.
Witch. It totally is. And I'm just like, okay. okay, yeah. And yeah, God, this went on for way too long. I'm like, please, this should have been one of these blackout skits that we've been talking about. But nope, nope, this just keeps going. And it was nice to see James Ferrantino. That was cool. And Jeanette Nolan wearing more more makeup than the witches from Witch's Feast. My goodness, I wasn't impressed.
More than the corpses in
Yeah,
Death in the
yeah.
Family.
I mean, it's funny because I keep slagging on this show, but I am actually enjoying this season more than the first season by a lot. So I'm like tolerating these, if not sometimes enjoying them. But this one, it wore out its welcome pretty fast.
Yeah, this season is like warts and all is comparatively a much better season. Like even if they're doing boneheaded things, I'm enjoying the boneheaded path that they're taking. Remember when that we began season 2, we got a new segment at the beginning where we got a rundown of every night's guest stars. Sort of like wondering why suddenly they were doing that. Well, as it turns out, NBC had zero notion on how to market this show, like none at all, because it was a bunch of different stories every week, a bunch of different characters every week. They had nothing that they could grab onto, and the only thing they could grab onto was guest stars, to the detriment of the show, because they began allocating portions of the show's budgets to getting what they considered draws to get people to show. And that didn't go beyond stunt casting, which we saw in the last episode with Imogen Coca and her husband, King Donovan, and in this episode with James Ferrantino and Michelle Lee, who were both married at the time.
Really?
So,
I couldn't tell. Their chemistry was electric.
They're great in it, right? There's a lot of charms to be had in this episode. I know it is the throat story we've seen a million times, and we would see it a million times since then. Like The Hand That Rocks the Cradle is basically this story too. Like, a person wants to take the other person's place. Having said that, they saddled these filmmakers with sticking them on the back lot and sticking them on sets. And sometimes they can pull it off. Like, there's a lot of preponderance of shots from down below looking up at everybody. And I'm sure it's because they don't want to show the same goddamn sets that we've seen in every TV show that's on television at the time. But like, it ends up like working in the show's favor. The goddamn boneheaded penultimate climax of this, where he loses her, is the stupidest thing I've ever. Like,
no, it's great.
Does the ending redeem it in any way?
No, the ending makes no fucking sense. Wait a second. Just so you know, when you're editing this, I was being facetious about James Ferrantino and Michelle Lee. Like, they have no chemistry.
Well, I disagree with you. I don't know if they have chemistry together, but I think she's an okay actress. And here, I thought she was fantastic. I thought she was like enlivened and engaged, and like all her reactions were really real. And I didn't know that they were married till after the fact. And I don't know if that affected it, but I thought she was really good. So I don't think they didn't have chemistry. I thought she did. And I'm going to edit that part in.
Nice.
Well, good for you. I like James Ferrantino. But again, like, the failings of the characters and their like inherent stupidity takes me out of it really hard. Because it's like, I need you to be there. Stay in. Like, here's the thing. I put myself in his position, and like, you're not trying very hard to not get your wife swapped with a witch, dude. Like, it's like you're putting the minimum effort. Like, no, wait, stop, don't go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not believable. And the stakes are pretty high. Like, they've established how high the stakes are here in this segment. I mean, you've ever seen the movie The Skeleton Key? It's the same goddamn thing. It ends almost the exact same way, even.
Exactly.
It's like, there's like no way that they don't tell the story the way that they told it. Like, they can't have it end in a, quote, positive way or a happy ending. They just can't bring themselves to do it. And it like infects the rest of the story, because the story knows it's not going to give you a satisfying ending. So it tries to give all these visual tricks and other bullshit to distract you from the fact that you're going to see something you've seen before done not any differently than you've seen it done before either.
Well, that's a strong opinion, sir.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't disagree with any of that. I think when you're dealing with such a tropey environment, you have to be better than anything that came before. You can't afford to have a character just turn his back and write on a chalkboard. Giving your wife enough time to leave your classroom, walk down the hall, go get in the car, drive home, have some tea. Like, that's how long before this character turns around. Okay.
And then he runs in the rain. He doesn't like ask someone, "Hey, can I get
borrow your
to
car?"
my house,
Yeah.
please?"
You
Like,
student, you'll get an A if you give me a ride right now.
Yeah, like what the, oh, I guess he just must not love you. Like, and here's the thing, like the way the story should have been told was his wife is a nag and he lets her become the witch because her being the witch is less of a problem for him than her just being a terrible nag.
That would be if Rod Serling wrote the episode.
Okay. Well, for once I actually want Rod Serling to do something.
I didn't have any problem with the story being told. And I think they brought up some interesting things visually that didn't pay off, that were kind of a drag. Like, he's at the chalkboard and he's, writing out these mathematical formulas while she's back drawing pentagrams on the floor of her thing. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Is he going to like use science and math and algebra to defeat like this witch? Like, that would be cool. No, that's not it. That wasn't.
No. That's too obvious. That's way too obvious and smart and interesting. And
see, he could have like sworn and said, "I'll sell my soul to get this answer," and then like Satan.
Well, yeah, I did want to say, another appearance by a veteran of movies and television in this particular episode. Gentlemen, might I present to you Sci-Fi Machine Gone Crazy?
That's straight out of Star Trek.
That is straight out of the 20th Century Fox sound library, which eventually got purchased by the Hanna-Barbera sound library, which is where you're going to hear it primarily. But for some reason, this episode, they decided to use, for all the supernatural sound effects, they use science fiction sound effects, which I actually found kind of effective. But given that I spend most of my time dealing with sound effects and I listened and I hear this one a lot in like other things now, like I just want to give a shout out to Sci-Fi Machine Gone Crazy.
No Wilhelm scream yet. I'm waiting for it.
I haven't heard Wilhelm scream at all in Night Gallery yet.
Well, I hope we get one.
I do too. And if not, I'll just put one at the end of this episode.
Dollars to Donuts will get one before the end of season 2.
All right, off to our next segment, which, again, you're not going to hear an introduction on this. You're not going to hear an introduction on most of them. Why? Because Rod didn't want to. But this one's called With Apologies to Mr. Hyde, written by Jack Laird, directed by Zeno Schwark. It's really hard to say, but it's worth saying. This one stars Adam West and Jack Laird. This is a Playboy magazine cartoon from the October issue.
Boy, yeah.
You guys want to...
I love Adam West, just not in this.
He doesn't do a bad job?
Could have been anybody. It feels like he was there so they could go on this week's episode.
Yeah.
Adam West for 2. He's in that on this episode of the Twilight Zone or Night Gallery. He's on that longer than he's in the actual episode. You overpromised and underdelivered. And yeah, it's a gag. It's fine. It comes and it goes as quickly as I wanted it to, which is to say it was like 30 seconds effectively is what it felt like. So good.
Yeah, you can't stay mad at these things because they're not around long enough for them to really register. And plus, in this case, it seems like Jack Laird and Adam West are just drinking buddies and they probably had a conversation. Yeah. Anyway, come to work tomorrow, we'll do this.
You want to make SAG minimum?
Sign me up.
I watched an interview with Zeno Schwark and he was saying how the Class of 99 episode, like the half a day he got to film that wasn't that common. But if you were getting assigned a blackout sketch, you had 2 hours. That's it. So
you should start the Zeno Schwark cast.
I'm gonna.
A deep dive into the career of Zeno Schwark.
You can admire somebody and not be a fanatic about them. I don't have to talk about him every week. He knows I love him.
The fan club of what?
If he doesn't, he will, because I'm going to forward these to him. We're going to get in touch with Zeno.
As long as if you can somehow manage to get Mike White to talk to Zeno Schwark along with yourself, it's a success.
Listen, Mike can speak for me as my proxy, just as long as he knows that there's a fucking lunatic out there named Father Malone who's one of his biggest fans. And like Annie Wilkes. No, that's I want.
Oh yeah, like Annie Wilkes. I'm your number one fan. The wife didn't drink the cock-a-doodle tea.
Right.
Didn't.
Which I now know what that is in reference to. So all those times before I sat and didn't say anything, now I get it.
It's a good movie.
It's very good movie.
I'm going to encourage beyond you. I'm going to encourage our listeners to watch Misery. It's a little known film.
And if you have HBO Max, you should watch it on there because they have a TCM intro with Rob Reiner.
Oh, nice.
Where he talks for like 10 minutes about the movie.
Wow.
Fantastic.
On Zoom, essentially.
Yeah.
It's just like in his office.
If we contacted him now, I bet he would tell us some stories.
Yeah. Hey, Rob.
James Caan. I just looked at him and I thought, let's put him in a bed. Like, let's take all the physicality out of him. Anyway.
We refer to him by different names: Lucifer, Mephistopheles, Beelzebub. But by any other name, he'd smell of brimstone. These the ingredients to a one-man stew: a disc jockey, a radio show, and a painting we call The Flip Side of Satan.
All right. Our final segment here is called The Flip Side of Satan. This one was written by Malcolm Marmerstein and Gerald Sanford, based on a story by Hal Dresner and directed by the aforementioned Gerald Freeman. This one stars Artie Johnson. He is a past his prime DJ taking an assignment in the Deep South. You know what I mean?
Deep South.
You know what? Take the lead on this one because I vividly remember this segment from, I saw it when I was a teenager, right? And at first I thought it was a segment that we haven't gotten to yet, which I really like, called Hell's Bells. But it turned out it was this one, right? Now, Artie Johnson is a fine performer. I have recently watched a bunch of Laugh-In, and reevaluated, and like, obviously there's a lot of talent going on behind and in front of the camera, and some of it is funny and whatever. But here's how my cynical punk rock teenage brain viewed this episode. I thought Laugh-In was like a bunch of straight conformist types dressing up what they thought the youth culture was and wanted to see, like as a fucking cash grab. So when Artie Johnson comes walking up to the radio station here as this past his prime DJ dealing with exactly that, I was like, I can't wait to watch this guy burn. Like, there couldn't have been a better cast like person for this role in my mind than Artie Johnson. Represented everything that was happening. So I didn't care what happened to him after that. This is a radio play of an episode. It's a one-man radio play of an episode. This is something we're going to see a lot in every sort of anthology story. Everyone goes to the one-man radio station who ends up in hell. I do want to say this. If the job that he gets in this, if it's a real thing, I'll take it, because I want to go to a station where they leave me a note to turn on the transformer and flip this switch and do that, and I'm alone by myself. And they don't even need to program it. I would have picked that music anyway. Like, that's supposed to be so horrible that he can't like stand it. I'm just like, that organ dirge, like, I would turn it over to side two. Anyway, this is not much of an episode. It's okay, and that's what I'm taking away from it. What about you, Mike? What did you think of this one?
This was interesting. Artie Johnson, I am very ambivalent about him. I think it was more I watched a little bit of Laugh-In when I was growing up, and just like the little man character that he was doing, and the whole like interesting but stupid, like, it just felt like, can we get away from these catchphrases, please? Can we do something else?
Seems like he should have been in a cocktail lounge at all times.
Oh yeah, him just playing this hipster and stuff. I was like, oh boy. And yeah, I agree. I'm just like, man, you are really full of yourself, because you have a job. You know, you should be pretty happy about that you have a job. And yeah, I would take this job in a heartbeat as well. It telegraphed where it was going pretty quickly. I actually really like Malcolm Marmerstein. He's mostly known for all the work that he did on Dark Shadows, but he also big friend of Elliot Gould. He wrote or co-wrote the screenplay for Spies and Whiffs, which are really bad movies. And he did the 1984 telefilm Poochie, which, as far as I know, has nothing to do with the Simpsons episode.
I must go now, my brain. It needs me.
Is Poochie by any chance about a robotic dog?
I think it might be. It's either that or it's one of those, you know, like Peter Boyle dies and comes back as a dog type of thing.
There's a Chevy Chase movie like that.
Like, oh, Heavenly Dog. Yeah.
I spoke with Marmerstein for like 5 minutes as I'm driving home one night, and I'm trying to line him up for an interview about Whiffs and Spies. But the movie I really wanted to talk to him about was Mary, Mary, Bloody Mary, the Moctezuma film, because Moctezuma is fucking amazing. And I'm just like, how did you write this movie for Moctezuma? But I never got a hold of him again, never returned my calls, never responded to anything. So, and now he's dead. So, end of the story. Yeah, end of story. It's a very bad ending. Almost as bad as the ending of this episode, but because we know where we're going with this. I was digging the music that he was playing. I love all of these satanic invocations, and when the music starts playing, even after, you know, the power's off, this is great. I was having a good time. I really thought that he was going to be Satan at first, but he's just a victim. He's just another sacrifice. The thing that really bothered me, though, about this is all of those dates on the photos and that it's every 10 years, but his was 6 years. And I was like, wait, no, that doesn't work. You should have kept with the pattern. It needs to be every 10 years they send a new DJ here and they sacrifice him to.
I definitely think they should have done something like that. He's being sent there because he slept with a friend of his wife. Like, that's how he got the assignment, right? Like, so is there some organization of radio station owners where like they're also satanic things? So this like comes in handy like every 10 years. I guess they had to accelerate it this year because
we should ask Monique Marmelstein and see if she knows. That's what I think of when you keep saying Malcolm Marmostein. It's just like Monique Marmelstein from Kolchak, the Night Stalker. This could have been in fucking Twilight Zone 1985, right? Like this story that they're telling, they could tell it in 1999 or 2009 or 2019. Like what this story is rather timeless, which I appreciate. I think that Artie Johnson is not nearly as evil enough. Does that make sense? Like I need him to be more casually evil, and he verges on it when he's like, well, she was gonna die anyways. It's like, what? Whoa, like where is this coming from? And like Mike has mentioned before with Wikipedia's description for this segment is a murderous disc jockey.
Right.
When, where, who did he kill?
Yeah,
I mean, he was complicit in that guy's wife dying, I guess, but like he's just a shitheel. He's an asshole. Like he's full of himself. That's it. Like
yeah, he's just a bad dude, right? And obviously,
But did he kill anybody? Like I don't think he actively killed someone. Like then it's like okay, he gets what he deserves either way. But
he definitely gets what he deserves. Look, if you view this episode through my lens and just call that guy Artie Johnson, then all of that makes sense.
That's what it is. I just
Artie
Johnson dies.
Look, this type of episode, by the way, there is a fantastic Tales from the Dark Side episode called The Devil's Advocate with Jerry Stiller, written by George Romero and directed by John Harrison, that does this and does what you guys were thinking this was going to go. That like that guy actually ends up the devil and has no idea. Like that one's really good and scary, intense and everything. Like it's better than this thing because you kind of know what's happening instead of going like what. And as I said, for this segment, and I'm glad you echoed me, Mike. This is actually a wish fulfillment episode. I didn't see anything wrong going on here. Like, I want to be the guy who comes in and just takes the body out and puts it out with the rest and go, like, I want to be the regular DJ from then on, like, for the next 6 years, maybe.
Well, and
wait for the next.
And that's the thing that I did appreciate about this is it's like it does do a good job of setting a sense of like time and like this is continuously happening and like there's more going on here. And I appreciated like kind of that world setting that they did, but there's nothing to it. Like they don't do anything with it. Bunch of pictures on a wall, like bare minimum of effort.
Yeah, and the list of sins that they give, they didn't even need to. This could have been a decent human being who like this could have been his first gig and he thought it was going to be great, like we would have accepted that too. Like the sort of layering on like he's a bad dude and deserves what he's getting was absolutely unnecessary in the world of Night Gallery. Irony runs in our blood, folks.
That's more Tales from the Crypt. Like this is almost like a Tales from like EC Comics type thing. Like I don't
very moral, but like the morality seems strapped on just so we can punish the guy.
Oh, it's strapped on, all right.
Which is way more immoral.
Why don't you know that you just want to see this guy get electrocuted and dead? Like don't you know? Like
none of that even made sense. Like this should have been something better.
Right? How like that's how he dies? Like of his own hand, essentially.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
You should have opened the door and the devil just goes ha ha, and the devil's played by Ron Glass.
He's got a pitchfork right into him.
Or Dan Hedaya. You know what I mean? Like we have now seen. There's a problem with all of these devil episodes. Anytime there's a devil episode or a satanic episode, all I can think of is Twilight Zone 1985 doing it better almost every time they had a demon or demonic possession or a Satan episode. And this is like a poor facsimile because like, oh, the devil's not actually there. It's just in the tape. Like, why not have him come out? Like, judge the goddamn guy for fuck's sake. Like, kill him with a vinyl, split his head in half with it. Like something more than just like
Cenobites in there, like made of vinyl deckers.
Something, please. Like if this guy is this murderous disc jockey and Satan is making it his point to make sure that he dies and that he's a sacrifice, then actually do more with it.
This doesn't work as an episode overall, but this is not that bad a thing that we saw. Deep critical analysis for it. It's not bad, I guess.
No, the first season of the show is still so bad for the most part that like the second season would have to do a lot to really sour me, because like you said, I think it's giving me enough right now where I'm like, yeah, is that right? It's better. Like Mike said, it's better than the first season.
It's harder. It's hard is more in the right place, it seems. As silly and as absolutely disposable as those blackout sketches are, it just points to a whole new take on where we were and where we are. So
I was just expecting when Artie Johnson put the vinyl on, for he's a jolly good fellow. Oh no, the satanic sounds of for he's a jolly good fellow.
I was waiting.
Yes, this episode is free of that counter, thankfully.
I was waiting for Bill Moseley to come in and be like, want to buy some radio airtime?
Listen here, motherfucker.
My fave.
Comes in scratching his head with a fucking coat hanger. Yeah, now I just want to watch that. God damn
You think you can do me a tour?
God damn it.
I love the tour she gives.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, wait. I love all those little noises he makes.
Bill Moseley is so fucking good in that movie. My God. Yeah, anytime there's a record, like anytime there's like records being played in a radio station, that's exactly right, Mike. That's what comes to mind. It's just that.
Yeah.
You're not going to get scarier than that.
No, fuck no.
When he's alone with her, and then when she's alone with Leatherface, like it's just endless avenues of horror.
Oh, so good.
Plus, that movie allows you to say chainsaw penis. So, and what does phallic chainsaws? What else really do you need? Dennis Hopper, and it's there. He's there. So there you go. Phallic chainsaws and Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
Go see that movie. That's a great movie.
The story behind this offering, a word which we've coined just for the occasion. Arachnophobia. It means for our purposes a special distaste for those crawly little beasties with the multi-legged hairy bodies. In other words, a fear of spiders. The title of our first painting in this, The Night Gallery. Item number 3 in the Night Gallery. We call it marmalade wine. Look at it, if you will, with gentle and restrained eyes. The way you'd look at a maniac in the woods. Because that's the story it tells. Hold out your glasses and get ready for a very special nightcap.
All right. On our next episode of Midnight Viewing, we'll be taking a look at episode 4 of season 2. It's broken into 4 segments: A Fear of Spiders, Junior, Marmalade Wine, and The Academy. Until then.
Up the Academy.
No,
that's
not this time.
That's marmalade wine, not marmastine wine.
Yeah.
Until then, folks, go to Weirding Way Media. That's where you're going to find all 3 of us. All of our podcasts are now on the, what are we calling this? A conglomerate, a network? A giant Weirding Way Media, folks. That's where you can find this show, every show we're involved in. And we'll see you on the next gallery opening, which sounds gross.
You said it, not me.